All right, so the next one here, we have like the trinomial times a number times an exponential. So what are our values for our two functions going to be? Well, we can have this one and we can have this one. And so we'll say, well, let's let g of x equal 12.8x squared plus 3.7x plus 1.2. Then we can say, okay, well, h of x is equal to then what? Well, 29 times 1.7 to the x. Okay. And maybe we'll try to get rid of that little extra line there. All right. And so now what do we got? Well, now we have to find g prime of x, and we have to find h prime of x. And so what's that going to be? Well, we're going to take and multiply here 2 times that. So that's going to be 16, and that's going to give us, it looks like 25.6x plus 3.7. And here, now we've got just a number, so we'll take 29 times, and we'll have to take, this is our b to the x, so we'll have to take the ln of 1.7 times then 1.7 to the x. Okay. Now we've got all of our factors, so f prime of x is just going to be what? Well, it's going to be 25.6x plus 3.7, and then that's going to be times, and now we have that times 29 times 1.7 to the x, and then plus, and then we have that whole thing up there, 12.8x squared plus 3.7x plus 1.2 times the derivative here, 29 times ln of 1.7 times 1.7 to the x. Okay. Now, again, I'm not going to simplify this. I'm going to leave it as it is. Now, we could go ahead and multiply these out, but then when you get that, that's going to be a lot of decimal places and we'd have to round, whereas here it's exact. So I'm going to leave it with that as an exact value. Okay, so this one we have, and they have it written, already with the -2. Now, if we brought it down here and we could go ahead and do what we've been doing, with the quotient rule, we could do that. But I'm just going to continue on and say, okay, well, let's let um, g of x equal that first part. So it's going to be 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9, and that's all still to the third. And then my h of x is equal to, and I have 3.8x squared plus 5.2x plus 7 all to the -2. Now, I can't directly take the derivatives here, okay? So I'm going to have an inside function and an outside function for both of these. And so I'm going to call this one 1, and I'm going to call this one 2. And so now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to work and find those derivatives. So maybe what I'll do is I'll say, well, g prime of x is going to be equal to, and h prime of x is going to be equal to, and I'll do the derivatives down here. So first I'll do 1. So my inside function, if we continue with the notation we did before, is g of x and f of g. Now, of course, now we have to remember which g of x we got where. So this is one of the problems using something continuously the same. I could switch this up, but I'm just going to leave it the same and know that, hey, this is what I'm doing, and that's how it's going to work. So my g of x is the inside function. 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9. And my f of g is going to be g of to the third. Okay. Now what do I do? Well, now I can take our derivatives. So g prime of x is equal to, well, 2 times 5.7, that's going to be 14, that's going to be 11.4, that's x plus 3.5, and then my f of g, I have to make that g look better, it didn't work very well. F prime of g is equal to, well, it's going to be 3g squared. Okay, so that's going to give me then the derivative of this, and that derivative I'm just going to write directly up here. So it's going to be 11.4x plus 3.5 times, and then I'll have where am I at? That's the 8g. Now I'm going to have the g cubed. Well, what is g? G is this whole thing here, so that's going to be 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9 cubed. And then what do I have? Well, oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? What I'm doing is I'm taking the wrong things. I should just multiply these two together. Haha. Okay, so now what we are doing is we're erasing, and we have to remember all the different steps on different places. So when we're doing this, we find our derivatives, we multiply those two derivatives together for the inside-outside function, and that's what we get then. So this then is going to be, I can say, well, I could put that and multiply that together. So I could have that 3 out in front, then times 11.4x plus 3.5 times, and now I have a g squared, and that was my g, so 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9, and that number then is squared. All right, so now we have the correct g prime. So nobody's here to keep me on my toes. Now we're going to do the same thing for the next one. So we're going to do 2. And again, just because this is how we've done it in the past, and if I would keep track of what I'm doing, I would know that that's just multiplying these two here, but I didn't do that. So my inside function is 3.8x squared plus 5.2x plus 7. And my outside function then is going to be g to the negative 2. All right, well then g prime of x is equal to, and f prime of g is equal to, well that's easy, that's minus 2g to the minus 3. And this one's going to be 2 times that, so it's going to be 7.6 x plus 5.2. All right, and so now I can take and multiply those two. And so I'll have a negative 2 out in front times the 7.6x plus 5.2. Now I'm going to have g to the third on the bottom. And my g was 3.8x squared plus 5.2x plus 7. And that's to the third. Now is when I find the derivative of the overall thing. And so then my f prime of x is equal to, and now I take this times this plus this times this, okay? So we have to make sure we get things in the right order when we're doing our cross multiplying kind of thing, or just multiplying these two together. All right, so now we'll take the top item up here, and so that's going to be 3 times 11.4x plus 3.5 times 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9 squared times this. Well, this is to the negative 2, so I'm going to say, well, let's simplify and take 3.8x squared plus 5.2x plus 7 squared. Okay, now I have plus. Now I have this cubed. Okay, so I'll have that, and we're going to take it times this. So maybe I'll take this times this, and then it's all divided by this. So then I'll be a negative 2 times 7.6x plus 5.2 times 5.7x squared plus 3.5x plus 2.9 cubed over 3.8x squared plus 5.2x plus 7 cubed, okay? So that then gives us what we need for our final thing. Now, could we change that to a minus and make that a plus? Yeah. Or we could say it's a plus and negative 2 times all of that, and we'd be fine as well. So either way, it really doesn't matter, but I'm not going to simplify anything further than this. This is where basically I'm going to stop that way. I know I can go back up here and get my values and make sure I know what I've done along the way, okay? All right, so let's stop there and we'll come back for more.